everybody, and welcome to Nerdsplaining Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Da Silva. With me, as always, is my co-host, Jose Romero.
Happy Nerd Day, everybody. Yet again.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Week in Geek. And this is a very special episode we have. It's not usually just me and Jose talking our nerd nonsense. We have a very special guest with us as well. Someone that I've known for quite some time. We've been talking about getting him in the show. We finally had the opportunity, oddly enough, on Halloween. Everyone welcome Adam Murray.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome, dude. Thank you so much for doing the show.
Yeah.
This is a special favorite having you here because you were on one of my favorite recent scary shows, Stranger Things, which you've gotten all the love from. So I'm very happy to have you on this Halloween episode.
That's the reason why it was the best season so far of Stranger Things. I just throw it out there.
Oh yeah, I thought so too. I mean, there was a little bit of me that was like worried, like what happens if this is the season where they jump the shark? Like this is the one where it all goes wrong, and that's when I finally get to be a part of it. But it was great.
Worst of all, what if they pinned it all on your character? Like everything was going cool to that one dude got a little bit too excited at the meeting, and the whole show went downhill.
That's exactly what they did. Like, have you seen the end of the episode? Like I'm responsible for like 22 people dying and one of the main characters going to the hospital.
Point. That's right.
Like,
that's right.
I had no idea any of that until it came out, and then people started messaging me before I'd seen it, going like, "Dude, you caused the end of the world, and you caused an earthquake, and you put Max in the hospital. You killed 22 people." I was like, "What the fuck happened? I haven't even seen this. I was waiting to watch it with my roommate." And then I was like, I can't wait any longer. I got to see what the fuck happened because I had no idea.
How dare you?
We should start a hashtag justice for Adam. It's not his fault.
Funny enough, I just went to a cast and crew event for it because they had a cast and crew day for the Stranger Things experience in Atlanta. And I found out for this season, they filmed more for this season than they did for season 1, 2, and 3 combined.
Wow.
So they had just a boatload of footage to put together to make, they spent like $300 million making this season. It was crazy.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jesus.
that explains why every episode was like an hour and 15 minutes.
Every episode was a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure they had nine episodes at what's 300 divided by 9? I mean, it was like $32 million an episode, $31 million an episode.
Roughly, yeah.
31 and a half, something like that. I mean, they had like proper the Ron Howard movie I did had a $40 million budget. Like they had proper movie budget. I mean, the first scene that I was in that town hall took 16 hours to shoot. It's a deceptively simple looking scene. I mean, every time they moved the camera, they had to rearrange the room. They had to change lights. They were hanging lights in the ceiling, like wiring through the ceiling. And this was in a church. So they had like those tile ceilings. And they were like, it wasn't like a C-stand holding a light. They had stuff hang in the outside scene that we did. They had weather balloons holding lights. Like they took over an entire. It was crazy. I've never seen any. Like I mean, I've worked on some big productions, big money productions. I've never seen anything like the kind of production value that they did for that. It's every scene, no matter how simple it looked, I guarantee was beyond crazy technically to make it happen and shoot it. If you watch that scene over again when I'm in the town hall. Every few seconds they change the camera angle, and every time they change that camera angle, it's probably 30 minutes to an hour to rearrange that room. All the lights have to be moved, chairs, furniture. I mean, they had a couple different cameras going. At one time they had like a main one that some scenes they had like 3 or 4 cameras going. I mean, it's absolutely insane. The kind of the Ron Howard movie and She-Hulk didn't even hold a candle to the amount of money and technical stuff they put together for that show. It's crazy. They had an endless budget for that thing.
I mean, the fact that it looked like none of that was there is what the most impressive part, because like it looked real, like a standard, like you didn't realize how many camera shots they were changing back and forth until you actually like watch and pay attention to it. It felt very seamless, and the fact that so much went into it, that kind of shows how much money they had to make it feel that smooth all the time.
I'll give you another great example. So there's like the scene where I walk in front of Vecna's house and I see Erica go running up the playground there.
Right.
I was never in front of that house. They took over a whole neighborhood in an undisclosed location. I guess they paid the people not to be there. They made it look overrun. I mean, they had the whole neighborhood. Like we had base camp elsewhere, and they bust us in these vans. And as they were driving in, they have these giant power trucks that they hook into like the sewer system to like, I guess, power everything that's happening on these shoots. They're very common. You see them at every shoot. And it's basically like a mobile power unit, and they have these big cores that go to everything.
I've seen those around there. Yeah.
Yeah. The one they had was painted black, but not. I mean, their shoot looked like something like the CIA was running. It wasn't like a normal black. If I had been driving, I would have run right into it. You couldn't see the damn thing until we were driving past it, and I saw lights glowing on it. I was like, "Holy shit! Look at that thing!" I mean, it like they had. I'm telling you, it's probably 4 to 6, at least 4, if not 6 to 8 square blocks of a neighborhood shut down for that scene, because I mean they had in a different part of the neighborhood they had craft services, and we're passing out pizza on it's the only big money shoot I've ever done where they pass out pizza. Normally they don't.
Nice.
But it was like 4 a.m, so they had shut down this whole neighborhood, and they actually built that swing set, and they had aged it to look old. And they had those the lights and the weather balloons. I thought it was an abandoned neighborhood until I started to look around, and you can see some of like the lawn clippings, like branches in people's driveways and stuff, was cut and placed there. And I was just like, oh man, they like, I'm certain they had just paid people to let their grass grow up and then paid them not to be there that weekend, like go to a hotel or whatever. I'm assuming this is what they did. They didn't tell me this, but it was pretty. No one's looking out their curtain and walking around. You know what I mean? If they didn't pay people to be gone, they would all be standing in their front yard going, "What's happening now?" You know what I mean? But so they built this whole playground, and on the opposite side of the street from it, they had this massive green screen that's like maybe 2 or 3 stories tall and probably like 100 feet long. And I walk and look at it, and that's the Creel house. I went to the actual Creel house recently, and across from it is like a funeral home and like a dentist's office and stuff. There's no neighborhood on that it's facing. It's facing these. I mean, they look like houses, sort of, but it's like the houses that are in a particular area that becomes a downtown, and those houses become offices and stuff. It's like one of those things. So like instead of a lawn, they have parking lots and stuff. But it's definitely like, it doesn't look residential at all. But I mean, and you'd never know. You'd never know that I was never there, because it looks like I'm walking directly in front of it.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome. I didn't even know like that you're. I know the real life neighborhood you're describing, but I totally thought you were there, and it was a simple neighborhood, and maybe like blocked out like 2 houses, one to the left and one to the right, and made it work. So all that is blowing my mind. That's It was completely. I mean, the Creel house was like a couple hours away from where we shot that, because this was on the south side of Atlanta. We were filming that, and the Creel house is in Rome, which is like an hour and a half to 2 hours northwest of that. I've been to Rome. I don't like going. Oh, it's there. I kind of want to go, but then I'm like, it's in Rome, so I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm glad you already experienced it for me. Thank you.
I went. I had the guy who was my stand-in, his name is Kevin. He hit me up and he was like, "Dude, do you want to go visit some Stranger Things filming locations?" And I was like, "Sure." And so he drove up here. I met him for lunch, and then we drove around. And all the kids' houses, including Barb's, is actually in the same neighborhood.
Oh,
so
wow.
we went and saw like Dustin's house, and the Wheeler house and the Byers house, like, and we just saw everyone like they're all in the same neighborhood. It's crazy.
That's
And
crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
there's, I mean, I don't know if people live in them. Some of them it seemed like people lived in them. Others it seemed like maybe production might own these. Because
Yeah,
I
I
mean they
think
had
they bought it out like flat out. It goes, we're going to use this for a couple of years, so we can't have
Right.
anybody in
Yeah.
there.
I
yeah,
doubt
like
someone's living there, right? No way.
yeah, like the Creel house was bought like in I think in 2019. It used to be a bed and breakfast, and then it was bought out. But filming for that season, I think, started, or maybe it sold in 2020, and whatever it was, it sold like 6 months or a year, maybe at most, before filming for season 4 started. So I mean,
Well,
it's
if they got it during the pandemic, they got it at a sweet cost.
I don't know. I
I
think
mean,
that the market went up and during the pandemic, so maybe not. Which
I
explains the
mean,
$300 million budget.
again, like I don't think that they cared. Like if they bought, I mean, they can afford to buy whatever they want. You know,
Right. If they can
they're in the
rent out a
level.
neighborhood, they can buy a house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We know Netflix is not cheap.
No,
They
no,
spend
no.
money. They spend money.
yeah,
They'll
I mean,
drop dimes on it, not even a problem. So real fast before we move on, did your character didn't die, so you could come back for season 5.
I was gonna
I
ask that.
mean, I would be very surprised if they asked me back. So when I originally auditioned for this uh, scene, I auditioned for everything you see in the episode. But the day before the episode came out, I found out that my character had one line because they had taken the character and split it into 2 parts, and I was angry townsperson number 2, and I had one line. And I was upset about it for all of about half a second. And then I was like, you know what? I don't give a shit. This is my favorite show. Like, just to be a part of it is fucking amazing. Like, I would have been an extra if they'd asked me. Like, I just want to be there. And so I fleshed out the character. I had a whole backstory and everything because they don't tell you anything other than what's in your scene. That's the whole reason I didn't know what I did led to. You know what I mean? So I fleshed out everything, made it made sense to me. Uh, I had to figure out. Anyway, we go in to shoot the thing, and we do rehearsals, and this is in the middle of the pandemic, so uh, there's no extras in the room. There's just the characters that are talking, and we do rehearsals a few times. And there are some acting teachers that will tell you save it for camera. Don't give it your all. Just say the lines, and then when it comes time to shoot, then you really give it your all, so that you don't blow your load before the camera runs. And I was just letting it rip for my one line, scream at the cop. And the one line I had was the one where I was like, "It's been days," that whole thing.
Right.
Where I'm like sitting down, and there's another lady in the scene who had the whole thing where she's marching out and causing the mob and all that. And when she did it, she sounded like the mom of a toddler. Like, come on, everybody, let's go. We're gonna go now, kind of thing. And I saw that, and I was like, I did that so differently. Like, I guess that's what they wanted. Like, okay. And we did it a few times, and then they let us go to the green room where I saw like the cast chairs have the word cast written in the Stranger Things font.
Oh,
And
cool.
I'm flipping out, going like, dude, do you see this? You see how cool this is? And everyone else is like, yeah, these are our chairs. We sit in them. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And then
You've been here. Come on.
yeah, a PA came and got myself and the woman and brought us back to set. And we met someone who I'd later find out he's the director. Because this, like, there's so many moving parts and so many people in the room. It's really hard to tell who's who. I'm looking for the Duffer Brothers, and there's different people yelling commands. Someone will say something to someone, and someone else will echo it to other people. So there's just so many moving parts. I had no idea this guy was the director, and he was like, "Listen, we've got like 1,000 pages of script. Uh, sometimes lines get crossed. There's miscommunication. That being said, he looks at her and goes, "You're not saying those lines anymore. He is." And she's like, "What about the scene with the dog?" And he's like, "Yeah, he's going to do that too." And I was like,
Oh,
"Is there?"
wow.
I
Nice.
was like, "Is there a dog here? I like dogs. Can I pet it?" And he's like, because clearly it was a tense moment. I know she's being downgraded, but I really didn't understand the like severity of it. Uh, and he was like, "There's no dog here," and I could tell two things from when he said that. Number one, he was embarrassed for having to do this, and number two, she was super angry. And again, I didn't understand the gravity of it. I knew she was being, you know,
Demoted.
like demoted, but I didn't understand truly how big that was until the end of the day. After 16 hours of shooting, I went over to the director and I thanked him. It was Sean Levy was the director, and I was like, "Thank you so much for having me on set." And I was like, "Did you want to go outside and shoot the thing with the dog real quick?" And he was like, "No, they'll call you another day for that." And he said it so nonchalantly, like I'm asking like it's an indie film. It's like, all right, yeah, yeah, send out to do with the camera, and just like I'm just gonna walk. You know, the the filming of that scene with the dog, they had an arm that held the camera, and this arm was like 60 feet long, and it could retract to like maybe 10 feet, and then extend out 60, and it can move in all directions silently. They had it like when you see the camera following Erica as she's running, it's this arm that follows her. It could follow her seamlessly. It was crazy.
Wow.
That thing's got to be a few $1,000,000 just for the arm.
Jesus.
And they had like when you see me, like I look over at the playground and look back at the house. You see the camera like come into my face and then go this way and it comes back in my face. It's that arm moving. And there was part of me is like, I mean, if this thing extends too far, it's gonna take my head off. Like it's a huge giant like, but uh so obviously it wasn't gonna be a real quick thing. And the way he said, they'll call you another day for that. He said it so nonchalantly that I was like, that's not happening. There's no way. Like, it's fine. This is fun. I'm super happy to have been here. Whatever. I'm gonna head out. And I went and uh, I got taken back to base camp, and I changed out of my costume, and they give you copies of the set that are like half sheets of paper.
Right.
They're called sides, and you have them and you see what they're filming that day. And I was like, I try to keep them from each project I do because they're just, for lack of a better word, adorable looking. Um, and I
It
just
makes
really
me
like
feel
them.
like a giant.
Well, they look like basically like a shrunken down script
Yeah.
because they're still formatted the same way, but it's half a sheet of paper.
Mm.
And so I go to sign. I was like, I knocked on the main trailer, and I was like, "Do you guys need me to sign out or anything?" Because I had heard on big sets like that, they like you to sign in and out, which they do. And this is like one of the first times I was actually doing that. And they were like, "We're so glad you're here. We just got radioed over. You're gonna be coming back. These are tentative dates. We're gonna have you back. Is that your script? I'll take that." And
Son of
so
a.
anyway, yeah, I was like, "Well, I can't keep that." They're like, "Oh no, we burn these at the end of the day." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I had a friend of mine who was on. Oh man, how am I blanking on the name of it? The one where the lady made everything look like it was the 50s.
Miss Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Maisel?
No, 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 no. MCU. She's the
Oh,
witch, and
WandaVision.
she's WandaVision.
Yeah.
I had a
WandaVision.
friend. I had a friend of mine who was in WandaVision, and she tried to do the same thing, keep her script, and production called her, be like, "Hey, where's your script? It's not in your trailer." And she's like, "Oh, I have it." She's like, "You need to come back and bring it to us. She's like, I'm in Florida now. And they're like, well, then you need to dispose of it. You need to burn it or shred it or whatever. She's like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. She's like, I totally did that.
Okay.
But like, they're serious about that stuff. Like, you don't want to be the one who's responsible for,
A major
some
leak?
sort of, yeah, you don't want to be responsible for a leak, And so, like, I knew a lot of the things that, were major spoilers for that show and for, not so much, I guess, for She-Hulk, but like, I mean, I knew some crazy spoilers for Cobra Kai before it came out. And you just have, like, if you're the one who spoils it, believe me, that'd be real bad for your career.
By the way, I just want to say, since you got to work with Sean Levy, can we say that Adam Murray confirmed for Deadpool 3? Is that possible?
Is he directing Deadpool 3?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Dude,
I think he is. Yeah.
he was the
Yeah.
nicest guy, man. He's it's between him and I think the director for Lyle. It was a team of two guys that did Lyle Crocodile. And the thing that was so awesome about those guys was they showed me the camera footage. Like, they were trying to get a specific performance out of me. And one of my acting teacher told me that no one would ever do this. It's unusual. And basically they paused paused shooting for a sec, like, come here. And they showed me, it's the first time I'd ever seen this. They had basically like a computer generated image. Like, they had the whole movie done in very like rudimentary CGI. So they knew the shots of the what?
Previous.
Yeah, they had that for the whole movie. They showed me the scene, and then they showed me what they were filming for me, and they were like, "Okay, we love it here, 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 here. Right here is we just need to speed this up a little bit and change it just a little bit. You're right there." But like, the fact that they showed me, because when I'm auditioning for stuff, I can see, like, I can watch myself in the camera, and I can see the playback, and I can know what's working and what's not, and I can make adjustments. So the fact that someone was willing to show me visually what's going on was great.
That's awesome, dude.
And that was super nice of us. I mean, Sean worked with me as much as he could on certain scenes. Uh, you know, um, it was. I mean, they were just great dudes.
I mean, you have been killing it this year. Just
well,
the amount of stuff.
That was all filmed last year. I was murdering it last year. This year,
It carries
you're
over,
right, because you and your friends, social media wise, and you would say, "I just finished doing a thing that I can't talk about yet, but I can't wait to tell you guys." And every time there's an announcement, you're like, "I get to talk about this now." So,
dude,
all the work you did last year has come out, and it's been amazing. And I'm super excited about seeing all the stuff that you can do, just because I get to nerd brag about, like, yeah, I know the guy. So
it's funny because, like, I mean, I made a post. I remember I think it was early this year, that, I mean, it's the closest thing to braggy that I mean, a lot of people think that I'm bragging, but really I'm just talking about what's happening. Like, I'm not trying to be. I feel like when someone's bragging, they're like, I just want you to know I'm better than, and that's not the way I feel about, the way I'm saying. I'm just saying this is what's happening, and I'm happy for it, and I'm excited for it, kind of thing. And I remember making a post. This is the closest I guess I'd come to that, was that I said I'd filmed 6 TV shows and 2 movies in the last year, and they're all bangers, and you guys really aren't ready for what's about to come out, kind of thing. And I don't think anyone took it seriously. Like, I had I give you a funny social media example like that. Like, when I was filming Stranger Things, I couldn't say anything. I couldn't post it. You're not even allowed to post something like, I just booked something that I'm super excited about. You can't, like, back when House of Cards was filming, people got kicked off the set for posting literal House of Cards and stuff like that to be like, like it's so on the nose.
Right.
I mean, come on. But different stuff like that. You can't. So what I posted was I posted a picture of a champagne bottle that I like a $20 bottle that I bought from Publix, and I was like,
Bragger.
some days just have to end with champagne, something like that. And then I was posting stuff like everyone knows I don't normally get up early in the morning. And so there were several days when I was working on Stranger Things, either if I was going for my COVID test or doing hair and makeup tests and wardrobe and all that stuff. There's a number of days you go to set before you're actually filming it and then going to set for filming and stuff. Each one of those, I was posting a picture of like my coffee maker, pouring coffee in it. And I was like, the captions were different things like, getting coffee and getting up early, getting coffee and putting in work, something like that. And a friend of mine, in a very loving way, was commented like, "No one gives a shit," and I was like, "Oh,
That
you
sounds like a
will."
comment. That sounds like a comment being supported. That's what it sounds like.
She's not a comic, but she's very funny. But like we got into conversation about it, and she was like, "No one really gives a fuck about your coffee." I'm like, "Oh, you will," and she's like, "Unless it means something else," and I'm like, "Maybe it does." And so we made a bet for 3 tacos. I think it was 3 tacos. Might have been two. We made a bet for tacos as to whether or not she'd figure it out, and she was like, uh, she's like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited? Like she figured out it was a project. She's like, okay, it's another project. It's like on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about this project? And I was like 37. And she was like, a 37? Wow, what could it be? And she couldn't guess it. I'm like, even if you guess it, I don't think I can tell you. I said, but you're going to be very upset that you didn't guess this first. And I want to say it was like six months later or something. She just messaged me like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "I just figured out." I think she had a dream about it or something. I don't remember what it was. But she like immediately was like, "It's got to be this." And I was like, I mean, maybe like I can neither confirm nor deny. And so she ended up taking me out for tacos. And she was like, "I can't believe it." And then it came out and she was like, "Oh yeah." But yeah, that was like
And
that
those are
was probably
probably the best tacos you've ever eaten in your entire life. Like,
oh
so
yeah.
good.
And the whole time I was like, these are just these are the have I said how good these tacos are? These there's definitely several times I've written her back and like, I just want to say best tacos I've ever eaten. Like this is the best wager I've ever made. This is easy as
If you
funny.
can keep a secret when it finally comes out, it is a pretty sweet situation. Like Jose knows a lot of the things that are going on behind the scenes. So Jose knew that that Ryan Reynolds was gonna announce Deadpool 3 with the Hugh Jackman, and this son of a bitch didn't tell me anything. He kept it so tight. He's like, I can't tell, and he's like, when it comes out, I'll confirm. And I was like, no. So
are you involved in the production or something?
No, I just know people
So Jose knows people.
I know people through Warner Brothers and Disney and all that. I go to a lot of screenings and stuff, so I talk to people and met people, and
okay,
it's a little insiders here and there. So I get tidbits and
I mean,
share
essentially,
when I can.
this is what Nerdsplaining is.
I was sworn to secrecy, so I couldn't betray that. I can't because
Jose gets the inside track.
You know how it is. You say something once, and then you never get told anything again. That's basically what happens, right? I mean, let me ask you a quick question because you mentioned you were at a 37 excitement level for Stranger Things, which I get. What was your excitement for She-Hulk? Out of curiosity, like when you learned you got.
Oh man,
that's MCU. That's pretty big.
So that one, I don't know that I really had time to process that excitement because with uh with the Marvel things, when you're auditioning for it, the vast majority of the time you never really know what it is you're auditioning for. They won't tell you what the project is. I found out actually when She-Hulk came out that there were like two, maybe three other characters in the show that I had auditioned for, and because of the breaking the fourth wall kind of stuff, I really thought, and how funny it was, I really thought that it was going to be something with Deadpool. So like I auditioned for um, someone in the writers' room at the end of
Right.
the season
Oh,
finale.
right. Mm-hmm.
The guy is like saying smart stuff to her about it. You can't meet Kevin, and I also auditioned for the guy in the superhero recovery group, like wearing all the
Okay.
spikes. He don't want to take off his costume.
Porcupine. Yeah.
Oh, the Porky.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And honestly, I feel like the scene I got was better than the other two. I mean, it's just her and I. It was more memorable, but like the way that came about is basically, I mean, they basically go, they hit you up. Are you available to shoot on Wednesday? Kind of thing. And
Right.
they hit you up on like a Monday, and it's like you don't really have time to process. Like, oh my god. Uh, but I knew it was. I knew it was She-Hulk right away. Uh, like they told me when I booked it that it was She-Hulk because my agents knew they had code words for all these shows.
Yeah.
Stranger Things was Toreko, and She-Hulk was Clover.
Okay.
So and I forget what Cobra Kai was, but they have their own code names, like, and they'll change them for the different seasons and stuff. Each one will have its own code word. Um, and so when I booked it, I was worried because I had just had COVID. This was the beginning of January, and I got COVID like New Year's Eve.
Oh,
But it was it was like I was fully vaccinated. It was the day I was getting ready to go get my booster. Like I was getting ready to
Of course.
leave to go get it, and I felt really sick. Not really sick, but like that's the whole reason I knew it was COVID is because I knew I was fully vaccinated and boosted, and it was the mildest cold I've ever had. Like I felt sick, but it was just like I was basically just tired and sweating and running a fever, and but I wasn't like I wasn't coughing and vomiting and all that stuff. Um, More than I normally do, I guess. I have this chronic cough I've kind of always had.
yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, right. Whatever.
But funny thing is, when I was on the set of Stranger Things, because I cough like this, it was in the middle of COVID. In the middle of filming, like when we had a break, like, all right, we're gonna test everyone for COVID. Just so you know, we're gonna do another code. They would come to me like, you you heard we're gonna do a COVID test, right? Everyone, like, you're gonna go do it, but everyone else you're doing, but you're really going right, kind of thing. I was like, all right, all right. And once I tested negative again, they were like, okay. But I mean, like,
Oh, you,
I mean,
you were a risk, but now we feel good about it.
yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, in that realm. But at any rate, so I had COVID, and I had it. Uh, I it was right after New Year's. You couldn't get a test because all the tests had been used, and it took me a few days to get a test. And by the time I think it was like I whenever New Year's Eve was, I got sick on like I think like a Wednesday, and I couldn't get a test until Monday, the following Monday. So it was like 5 days later, or 6 days later, and my symptoms had already gone away. I was like, all right, whatever it was, I'm fine. I went to go get tested. I felt fine, just like I am right now. I got tested, and turns out I had it. I tested positive.
oh,
The very next day, I find out I booked She-Hulk. That's a Tuesday,
Oh, wow.
and they're like, "We might be filming you tomorrow, uh, or testing you tomorrow or whatever, and filming the following day or something. And I said to my agent, I was like, I just tested positive for COVID yesterday. And they were like, well, we can tell them you're worried about testing positive for COVID and they'll find someone else, or you can go get tested and see what happens. He was like, when I had COVID, because it was I forget, wasn't Omicron. It was whatever the one that was real short lasting. He was
Right.
like, when I had it, it was literally like 5 days, and then I started testing negative for it. So it's like you can go give it a try. And I was like, all right, well, let's do that. And so what I did was the night before, I cleaned my nose with peroxide because I had read something that
You saw it on Rogan. I get it. It's fine.
no, no, no. I Googled it, and there was like there was some athletes that were like trying to cheat the COVID test doing that. And so I did it the night before, and I figured that's probably 24 hours by the time I, go to set. I didn't want to, because people were testing positive for months on end. And what I didn't want to have happen was that just residual bullshit in my nose was going to make me test positive. But I figured if I clean it all out and I still test positive, then I'm still producing it and I shouldn't be on set, you know? So I just cleaned my nose real good. I went and got tested. I tested negative for it. I went to set the next day and they tested me again and I tested negative for it. And so uh, I shot it and the rest is history. But I honestly don't know if I hadn't cleaned my nose out, I might not have been on this
Well,
show. But
that
uh,
that Adam, I
Whatever
hate to
works.
do this, but we gotta cut you off because we're getting ready to wrap up the show.
wow, what can, can I tell you about my experience with She-Hulk?
Jose, what can we do? Because
Let's
I
do
know
a
we have
part.
like a,
We can do a part two.
we can do a part two. All right,
Let's
give us
end
a
right
second.
here.
We're
We'll
gonna
to
end
be
here. We'll do
continued, and
another
we can do a
video.
part
That was
two
a
in a
part
few
two.
minutes, and we'll load that one up as well.
Hell yeah!
So I
So
want to
we have
continue the
part two,
party. I
guys.
want to continue the party.
Second. Here we go.
I didn't hear Eric, but I thought he said goodbye. You were cut off, dude. We're gonna end this show right here. We're gonna come. I'll drop another show. We're gonna do another part two of this. I want to get this party continued.
Yes.
Stay tuned, everybody. We appreciate it. Of course, Nerdsplaining. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter, and we'll be back in a little bit.